There's a specific agonizing kind of pain, isn't there? It's worse, sometimes, than a direct confrontation. It's not the sting of an insult or the heat of an argument. It's the absolute chilling zero of acknowledgement. You speak, and they look right through you. You share a brilliant idea in a meeting, and moments later someone else repeats it to applause. You reach out with a heartfelt message, and the reply never, ever comes. Your very presence is treated like background noise that must be filtered out. This is the silence that burns. It's a calculated psychological weapon in our modern age, expertly designed to trigger our deepest, most primal human fear: irrelevance. The natural response: it's volcanic. Your ego screams from the depths of your being, "I matter. Why can't they see me? I exist. I must force them to pay attention." You feel this intense, almost unbearable pressure to break their silence. You want to send that frantic triple text follow-up. You want to walk up to them and demand the respect you know you deserve. You want to lash out, to create drama, to do anything at all just to prove you're not invisible. You feel a primal urge to fill the void of their neglect with noise, with desperation, with performance. But what if I told you there's another way? A way to transform this agonizing silence from a weapon used against you into a shield that empowers you. When they ignore you, I want you to remember this profound, ancient Stoic truth. When you are treated as a ghost, a Stoic finds their body. When they withdraw their attention, a Stoic doubles down on self-possession. The world might see their silence as your defeat, but the Stoic sees their silence as the ultimate, unearned gift of freedom. Let's dive into the philosophical foundations of this incredible power. It all begins with what the Stoics called the Great Dividing Line, or the dichotomy of control. This is the fundamental cornerstone of Stoicism, taught by the former slave Epictetus and practiced by the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. It's a radical, life-altering division of all of reality into just two categories: things that are in our control and things that are not in our control. So, when someone ignores you, where does that act, or rather that lack of an act, fall? It falls squarely, irrevocably, into the second category. Their attention? It's not yours to control. Their focus? Not yours. Their validation? Their approval? Their perception of your worth? Absolutely, definitely not yours. This is where the paths of the Stoic and the non-Stoic diverge. The non-Stoic finds themselves in a state of constant agony because they have unknowingly chained their self-worth to things they cannot control. They are perpetually standing at the mercy of other people's moods, their whims, their biases, and their inattention. Their inner peace is a hostage to external circumstances. The Stoic, however, uses the silence of others as a sharp, clear reminder. Stop seeking external validation for an internal state. The moment you truly internalize this truth, the silence loses its power to wound you. The cold indifference of others ceases to feel like a personal attack and becomes, instead, a neutral fact of the universe, like the weather or the turning of the tide. It demands nothing from you except acceptance. Think about it this way. You wouldn't get angry at a cloud for blocking the sun, would you? You wouldn't scream at the ocean for being loud. You recognize these things are outside your control, so you adapt. You might grab an umbrella or move further up the beach. You work with reality, not against it. The Stoic applies this exact same logic to the social world. Another person's silence is just a cloud passing over. It doesn't diminish the sun. This isn't about pretending you don't feel the initial sting. You're human. The initial ouch is natural. It's an automatic, precognitive reaction. But Stoicism isn't about suppressing feelings. It's about what you do after that initial feeling arises. The non-Stoic lets that sting fester into a wound, obsessing over why me and what did I do wrong. The Stoic acknowledges the sting, breathes, and then immediately pivots their focus back to the only domain that matters, their own. So what is in your control? Your thoughts? your judgments, your actions, your character, your response. When someone ignores you, instead of trying to force a reaction from them, which is outside your control, you turn your energy inward. You ask yourself questions that are actually productive. Instead of, why are they ignoring me? You ask, how will I choose to respond to this situation with grace and dignity? Instead of, what's wrong with me? You ask, what can I do right now that aligns with my values? What is a virtuous and productive use of my time? Suddenly, their silence becomes a vast, open space. For the non-Stoic, this space is a terrifying void. For the Stoic, it's a playground. It's free time you didn't ask for. It's mental energy you no longer have to spend on them. It's an opportunity to redirect your focus onto your work, your hobbies, your health, your learning, your own well-being. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Being ignored is the ultimate test of this principle. The event is external. Your mind, your response, is internal. That is where your power lies. When you are ignored, it's also a powerful diagnostic tool. The silence of others often reveals more about them than it does about you. Perhaps they are insecure, and your presence threatens them. Perhaps they are overwhelmed and don't have the emotional capacity to engage. Perhaps they are manipulative and use silence as a tool for control. In any of these cases, their silence is a signal about their character, not a verdict on your worth. By trying to force them to acknowledge you, you are essentially begging to be let into a house where you are not welcome. The Stoic sees the closed door and says, "Thank you for showing me this isn't where I belong. I'll go build my own house." This is the ultimate reframe. Their silence is not a rejection, it's a redirection. The universe, through their inaction, is gently nudging you away from a path that is not meant for you. It's saving you from investing your precious, finite energy into someone who cannot or will not appreciate it. So the next time you feel that chilling silence, the next time you're looked through or scrolled past, take a deep breath. Feel the initial sting, acknowledge it, and then let it go. Remind yourself of the great dividing line. Their attention is not in your control, but your response, your peace, your purpose, that is entirely, beautifully, and powerfully yours. Don't fill their silence with your noise. Fill it with your life. Go for a walk. Read a book. Call a friend who does value you. Work on that project you're passionate about. Build your empire in the quiet space they've given you. Their silence is not your punishment. It's your permission slip to focus on what truly matters, your own character, your own actions, and your own peace of mind. That is the Stoic's secret to turning the pain of being ignored into the power of self-reliance. You don't need their acknowledgement to be whole. You already are. Thank you so much for watching. If this resonated with you, consider subscribing for more insights on living a stronger, more resilient life. See you in the next video. Ever feel that sting of being ignored? The unanswered text, the overlooked comment, the silent treatment from a friend or colleague? It's a uniquely modern form of pain, isn't it? Our natural instinct screams that this is a disaster, a personal failure. But what if I told you that being ignored is not a curse, but a hidden superpower? What if the key to unshakable confidence isn't getting more attention, but learning to thrive without it? Today, we're diving deep into the ancient wisdom of Stoicism to reframe this common pain into a source of incredible personal strength. This isn't about pretending you don't care. It's about fundamentally changing the game so that the attention of others becomes irrelevant to your peace and your power. Let's start with a core Stoic idea, the gift of indifference. The Stoics had a special term, adiaphora, which translates to indifference. They used this to classify everything outside of our direct control, things like wealth, health, status, and yes, even the attention and praise of others. Now, indifferent doesn't mean you can't enjoy these things. The Stoics called them preferred indifference. It's nice to have health, it's nice to be recognized, but here's the crucial distinction. They are not inherently good or bad. They don't define your worth. When you're ignored, your gut reaction treats it as a profound evil, a genuine loss. It feels personal. But a Stoic mind applies a simple, powerful test. Ask yourself this: does their inattention fundamentally make me a worse, less virtuous, or less capable person? The answer is always a clear, resounding no. Think about it. Being ignored does not destroy your ability to be fair and just. It doesn't diminish your capacity for courage in the face of your own challenges. It doesn't undermine your opportunity for self-control or temperance. And it certainly doesn't stop you from pursuing wisdom and knowledge. These four cardinal virtues, justice, courage, temperance, and wisdom, are the only things the Stoics considered truly good. And the best part? They are entirely up to you. They are completely dependent on your will and are totally immune to what other people think or do. The moment you define your self-worth by the quality of your character, the quantity of others' attention becomes a meaningless statistic. It's just noise. So if being ignored doesn't actually harm our character, why does it hurt so much? The pain doesn't come from the act of being ignored itself. It comes from what the Stoics would see as the tyranny of external validation. We've built our egos on a fragile foundation. From a young age, society teaches us to measure our success using an outward-facing report card: school grades, social media likes, applause, promotions, and most simply, the attention of our peers. When this attention is withdrawn, our ego, that desperate, needy, performative part of us, panics. It shrieks because its primary fuel source has been cut off. The deep, unspoken fear is that if others don't see you, you don't truly exist. You become invisible, irrelevant. But Stoic truth offers a radical, liberating alternative to this unwritten social contract. You exist by virtue of your consciousness and your character, not by the size of your audience. Your reality is not determined by their perception. The philosopher Seneca hit the nail on the head when he said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." Let's apply this to attention. It is not the person who receives little acknowledgement, but the person who desperately craves it, who is spiritually impoverished and psychologically weak. Think about that. The constant desire for attention makes you a beggar, a supplicant, always holding out your hand for a scrap of validation. But the conscious rejection of that need? That makes you a sovereign. It makes you the king or queen of your own inner kingdom, where you decide your worth. This brings us to a powerful psychological strategy: retreat and recalibration. Imagine an army in a battlefield. If the enemy completely ignores them, just leaves them alone, does the army charge wildly into the empty field, screaming for a fight? No. A smart army uses that time to its advantage. It drills its soldiers, trains its strategists, and fortifies its defenses. It gets stronger in the silence. You must view the silence of others as your tactical opportunity for inner fortification. When the world denies you the platform you thought you wanted, you have a choice. You can either complain about the injustice, or you can invert the action. Use the time and energy you've been given to become someone so skilled, so wise, so self-assured that you don't even need a platform. So instead of replaying a conversation in your head, rehearsing what you should have said to get noticed, double down on your craft. Study the very skills they ignored. Become undeniable. Instead of endlessly scrolling social media, hunting for some crumb of proof that you're still relevant, pick up the book that will advance your wisdom. Expand your mind. And instead of obsessing over the person who didn't text back, focus your precious energy on the people who do value you. Or better yet, spend that time in productive solitude, getting comfortable with your own thoughts, becoming your own best friend. This is the ultimate non-combative form of retaliation. It's not about getting back at them. It's about getting ahead for yourself. You use their indifference to become stronger, more resilient, and more capable than you ever would have been if they had given you their attention. You take their external rejection and you transform it, like an alchemist, into pure internal momentum. Their silence becomes the fuel for your growth. So the next time you feel that sting of being ignored, remember this. It's not a rejection, it's a redirection. It's an invitation from the universe to stop looking outward for approval and to start building an unshakable fortress within. Turn your focus inward, cultivate your virtues, and watch as the need for external validation simply melts away. You'll discover a freedom and a power you never knew you had. Thanks for watching. If this idea resonated with you, consider subscribing for more insights on building a resilient and meaningful life. See you in the next one. Ever felt that sting? That sharp, sinking feeling when someone ignores you? You send a message, it gets left unread. You speak up in a meeting, and it's like you said nothing at all. You wave at someone you know, and they just walk past. It hurts, right? It feels like a personal rejection, a judgment on your worth. But what if I told you that this feeling, this pain, is built on a lie? A lie your own mind is telling you. The Stoic philosophers, masters of the human mind, knew this thousands of years ago. They taught that the only thing that can truly be injured by someone else's inattention is not you, but your fragile self-image. Your real self, your core, your reasoning mind, that remains untouched, powerful, and whole. So what is this real self? The Stoics called it the hegemonikon, the ruling faculty of the mind. It's the part of you that chooses, judges, and decides. It's the director in the control room of your brain. Everything else, your reputation, how people see you, whether they like your post or answer your text, is external. It's outside your control. And here's the secret. Anything outside your direct control cannot truly harm your core self. The pain we feel when we're ignored isn't caused by the other person's action or lack of action. It's caused by our own judgment about it. We tell ourselves a story, them ignoring me means I'm not important, or it means I'm boring, or I'm unlovable. We are the ones who turn a simple external event into a weapon against our own peace. The great Stoic teacher Epictetus had a powerful metaphor for this. He urged his students to build an inner citadel. Imagine a fortress inside your mind. It has high, thick walls, strong gates, and vigilant watchtowers. This fortress is designed to be impregnable, not to swords or stones, but to the chaos of the outside world, to insults, to misfortune, and yes, to being ignored. This citadel is your sanctuary of calm and reason, a place where your self-worth is protected, not by others, but by you. When someone ignores you, think of it as a stress test for your fortress. It's like an enemy scout has been sent to probe your defenses. If you immediately feel that crumble of anxiety, that rush of anger, or that wave of sadness, it means there are gaps in your walls. What are these gaps? They are your dependencies on things you cannot control, a dependency on external praise, a need for constant recognition, an addiction to validation from others. Every time you think, I'll be happy when they notice me, or my day is ruined because they didn't reply, you're leaving a gate wide open in your citadel for anyone to just walk in and wreck the place. You're handing over the keys to your emotional well-being to people who, frankly, are busy living their own lives and probably aren't thinking about you at all. The goal of a practicing Stoic is to seal these gaps, to reinforce the walls, and to become the sole commander of that inner fortress. So how do we do this in practice? How do we start building this unshakable self? It begins with a drill, a mental exercise you can run the very moment you feel that sting of being ignored. It's a conscious shift in your internal dialogue. The old script goes something like this. Why are they ignoring me? What did I do wrong? Don't they like me anymore? It's a spiral of questions that puts all the power in their hands. The new Stoic script is a statement of self-sufficiency. The moment you feel it, you pause, take a breath, and tell yourself this. This person's action or inaction has zero bearing on my worth. It cannot touch my core self. This isn't about pretending it doesn't bother you. It's about fundamentally changing your definition of success and failure. The Stoics divided the world into two categories: things we control and things we don't. The only things we truly control are our own thoughts, our intentions, and our actions. Everything else, the results of our actions, how people react to them, their opinions, their moods, is firmly in the do not control category. So your mission as a human being isn't to get a reply. It's not to be acknowledged. Your mission, according to the Stoics, is to act with virtue. This means focusing only on your side of the equation. Ask yourself these questions instead. Did I act with a good intention? Did I speak my truth with clarity and respect? Did I do my best in that situation? Did I act justly and with kindness? If the answer to these questions is yes, then you have succeeded. Full stop. You have done your part. You have fulfilled your duty. Their response, or lack of one, is completely irrelevant to your success as a virtuous human being. It's just external data. It's like a weather report. It's information, but it doesn't define who you are. By focusing only on your effort and your intention, and completely letting go of your attachment to the result, you make yourself emotionally invulnerable. You become the owner of your own peace. Think about it in today's world, the age of constant communication. We live in a notification-driven society. Our phones buzz and ping, demanding our attention, and we expect the same instant attention from others. Social media has turned validation into a currency, measured in likes, shares, and comments. This environment is the ultimate training ground for building your inner citadel. Every unanswered DM, every post that gets no engagement, every time you're left out of a group chat, these are not personal failures. These are opportunities. They are reps in the mental gym. Each one is a chance to practice detaching your self-worth from the whims of the algorithm or the attention spans of others. Let's make this really practical. Next time you send a text and it sits there, unread for hours or days, run the drill. First, notice the feeling, the anxiety, the impatience, the story you start to tell yourself. Acknowledge it without judgment. Then, activate your reasoning mind. Ask, what is in my control here? Your control ended the moment you hit send. Your job was to communicate with good intent. You did that. Job done. Now, their response is in their control. Maybe they're busy. Maybe they're overwhelmed. Maybe they forgot. Their reasons are their own and have nothing to do with your value. Your peace of mind should not depend on their notification settings. Release it. Turn your attention to something you can control. Your next task, a book you're reading, a walk outside. You take your power back. This isn't about becoming cold or indifferent. Stoicism is often misunderstood as being emotionless. That's not it at all. It's about choosing your emotions wisely. It's about not suffering over things that are ultimately trivial and outside your influence. You can still be a warm, loving, and engaged person. In fact, by not being constantly worried about how you're being received, you become more present, more authentic, and more courageous in your interactions. You can speak your mind freely because you're not afraid of the silence that might follow. You can offer help without needing a thank you in return. You act from a place of inner strength, not from a place of neediness. The ultimate freedom is realizing that the only person who needs to see your worth is you. The validation you're seeking from others is a pale imitation of the deep, unshakable confidence that comes from self-validation. It's about knowing that you are doing your best to live by your values, to act with integrity, to be a good person. When that is your metric for success, the opinions and actions of others become what they truly are: noise. You can hear the noise, you can acknowledge it, but you don't have to let it inside the walls of your inner citadel. Your peace is your responsibility and yours alone. Build your fortress, guard it well, and you will find a stability and contentment that no amount of external validation can ever provide. You become your own source of strength. Thank you for watching. If this resonated with you, Consider subscribing for more insights on building a stronger, more resilient mind. Have you ever sent a text, seen those two little check marks turn blue, and then nothing? Hours, maybe even days go by. Or you pour your heart into a project update, post it online, and get nothing but digital tumbleweeds. That feeling? It's not just in your head. Welcome to the world of digital ghosting. In ancient Rome, a Stoic might have been snubbed in the public forum. Today we get snubbed by a vibrating rectangle in our pocket, and it happens all the time. The modern world hasn't solved the problem of being ignored. It's just weaponized it, made it faster, and turned it into a constant source of anxiety. Think about the modern triggers. That unanswered text message where the silence feels like a deliberate choice. The professional email you carefully crafted that disappears into an abyss, leaving you wondering if you should follow up or just give up. The social media post you were proud of that gets 0 likes, making you feel invisible. Or maybe you've been in a video call, unmuted yourself to share an idea only to have everyone talk right over you. You quietly mute yourself again, feeling like your contribution meant nothing. Each of these is a tiny cut to our ego. They're designed to hit us where it hurts, right in our fundamental human need for acknowledgement. And because we know the message was seen, the silence feels personal, like a painful, intentional rejection. This is where the real danger lies. We start assigning all sorts of catastrophic meanings to this lack of information. We tell ourselves stories, "They must be angry with me," or "My idea was stupid," or "Nobody cares about what I have to say." We create suffering out of our own imagination. But a Stoic would look at this differently. When faced with ambiguity, a Stoic defaults to the most rational and least self-damaging interpretation. The silence is just a lack of data. It's not proof of your insignificance. It could mean anything. Maybe their phone died. Maybe they got pulled into an emergency. Maybe they're just overwhelmed. The Stoic principle is simple. Assume complexity, not malice. Don't build a prison of anxiety for yourself based on a story you made up. So how do we fight this constant digital assault on our sanity? We need to cultivate what I call an out-of-office mindset. It's a deliberate philosophical detachment from the need for instant feedback. First, practice the send and detach method. Once you've sent that text, email, or post, your job is done. You've done your part. You communicated clearly. You expressed yourself honestly. That was the virtuous effort. The result, whether you get a reply, a like, or just silence, is outside of your control. And if it's outside your control, it's what the Stoics would call an indifferent. It doesn't define your worth. Second, use a time lock. Instead of anxiously checking your phone every 2 minutes, impose a mental moratorium. If you sent an important email, decide on a specific time you'll check for a reply. For example, I won't look at this again until 4 p.m. In the meantime, you redirect all that mental energy back to things you can actually control, the tasks and actions that depend only on you. This breaks the obsessive loop of anxiety and puts you back in the driver's seat. Third, triage your attention. Apply the Stoic dichotomy of control to your phone. You control when you look at it, which notifications you allow, and what apps you open. You do not control what messages or alerts come into it. So start treating your phone like a tool, not a leash. Its purpose is to help you, not to be a real-time scoreboard of your social standing. Turn off non-essential notifications. Set boundaries. Reclaim your focus. You see, being ignored, paradoxically, can be a gift. It's an opportunity for profound self-discovery. When other people give you their silence, they are giving you time. Uninterrupted, unvalidated, open time. A mind that isn't trained sees this as a painful, empty void. But a Stoic mind sees it as a sanctuary. This is your chance to engage in the quiet, self-directed acts that truly build your character, with or without an audience. This is the time to read that book on philosophy you've been putting off, to practice that skill you want to master, to get in a disciplined workout, to simply sit in quiet contemplation and practice gratitude. If you can become comfortable and productive in your own company, if you don't need the approval or distraction of others to fill your time, then the power of ghosting completely evaporates. Their silence no longer feels like a punishment. Instead, it just returns you to the fertile ground of your own inner citadel, that unshakable core of your character. The digital world is designed to make you crave constant connection and validation. But Stoicism offers you the psychological blueprint to thrive even in disconnection. The goal isn't to abandon modern technology, it's to strip it of its power to emotionally blackmail you. It's about using these tools on your own terms without letting them dictate your peace of mind. So the next time you're left on read, don't see it as rejection. See it as an invitation to turn inward, to focus on what truly matters, and to strengthen the one relationship that you have complete control over, the one with yourself. Thanks for watching. If this resonated with you, consider subscribing for more insights on applying ancient wisdom to modern problems. See you in the next one. When the digital world weaponizes silence, the Stoic must reclaim silence as their ultimate refuge. The proper response to being ignored isn't a desperate chase for attention, but a dignified, strategic withdrawal, a voluntary retreat into the self. This isn't bitter isolation. It's solitude rooted in strength. Seneca, the great Roman philosopher, understood that public life, while sometimes necessary, was often toxic to the soul. He saw the world's constant noise not as a stage for performance, but as a distraction that erodes our ability for clear thought and virtuous action. Seneca wrote extensively about a concept called otium, which is often poorly translated as leisure. For a Stoic, otium isn't about being idle. It says about dedicating your free time to serious self-improvement, the complete opposite of the ego's demand for social validation. When the world ignores you, it's essentially creating an unplanned space for odium. Most people panic. They frantically try to fill that silence with noise or renewed attempts to get noticed. But the Stoic sees this as a golden, unearned opportunity. It's a chance to focus on the only thing that truly matters, mastering your own character. So, here's the choice. Will you use the silence granted by others' neglect to chase after them? Or will you use it to cultivate a quiet, unshakable power within yourself? The person who finds their greatest fulfillment in study, contemplation, and self-mastery is fundamentally immune to being ignored. They have achieved a state of self-possession where their time, when not obligated to duty, is a prized commodity. For them, solitude is the ultimate luxury. Why does the world fear silence so much? The average person fears solitude because it forces them to confront their own inner world. When the distractions of social media, work, and endless conversation are stripped away, the only person left is themselves. If you've spent your life building a false self based on external praise and titles, that silence reveals an internal emptiness. It exposes the lack of a genuine philosophical center. Seneca saw this clearly, observing that many people travel and seek constant stimulation simply to escape themselves. As he said, they change their sky, not their soul. The person who needs to be constantly entertained, acknowledged, and validated is really just afraid of who they might find when they finally stop running. The Stoic, in contrast, views solitude as a chance for rigorous self-examination. It's the only time the mind can truly hear itself and conduct the necessary audit to weed out irrational desires, emotional dependencies, and faulty logic. When you are ignored, your philosophical duty is to turn inward and ask, what am I doing right now that is solely for the consumption of others? To make this solitude productive and dignified, rather than passive and despairing, the Stoic follows 3 practical rules when met with indifference. First, withdraw your dependence, not your presence. The goal isn't to dramatically disappear from the world to punish those who ignore you. The goal is to withdraw your need and your expectation from the interaction. You continue your duties. You remain present, but you conduct yourself as if the outcome is already sealed. Because in terms of your inner peace, it is. You act because it is virtuous to act, not because you need a specific validating result. This quiet, non-reactive presence often holds more power than any desperate outcry for attention. Second, embrace the primacy of the morning audit. Use the quiet of the morning before the world and its demands wake up to fortify your mind. Just as Marcus Aurelius did, spend this time setting your intentions and rehearsing your philosophy. Rehearse indifference to the outcome. State clearly to yourself, "Today, I may be ignored. If so, that is fine. I will treat it as neutral data." Then, identify your virtues. Today, I will focus on being diligent, temperate, and kind. These depend only on me. By preemptively accepting the possibility of neglect, you inoculate yourself against the emotional sting when it happens. Third, practice non-comparison. The digital age makes dignified withdrawal incredibly difficult. It constantly streams the highlight reels of other people's lives directly into your solitude. Their successes, their acknowledged contributions, their social fanfare. This can lead to the painful conclusion, they are succeeding. I am irrelevant. The Stoic truth must be your filter. Comparison is the thief of joy and the destroyer of self-worth. During your time of otium, you must prohibit the consumption of content that makes you feel less than. Instead, consume content that makes you feel more virtuous. The biographies of great people, works of philosophy, or learning a new skill. You are training yourself to find the validation of personal growth more compelling than the validation of social ranking. What is the ultimate outcome of all this? You become the unmovable person. The person who masters dignified withdrawal is unshakable. If they are ignored, they have their books, their thoughts, and their disciplined craft. If they are acknowledged, they accept it with a calm appreciation, but without any dependence. They are not defined by the attention they are given, but by the quality of the time they give to themselves. The silence of others, far from being a defeat, becomes the very air you breathe. It's a clean, quiet space where you can hear the voice of reason and fortify your inner citadel against any and all external assaults. When you master the art of dignified withdrawal, another person's attempt to ignore you ceases to be a power move against you. It becomes a benevolent service, granting you the most precious resource of all, undisturbed time for self-mastery. Thanks for watching. If you found this valuable, consider subscribing for more insights into practical philosophy. Have you ever sent a text, an email, or even just spoken your mind, only to be met with complete silence? That feeling of being ignored, of your words just vanishing into a void, can be incredibly painful. It feels like a rejection, a failure. We think, what did I do wrong? Why aren't they responding? This is a psychological trap, and today, we're going to learn how to break free from it for good. The biggest mistake we make in communication is tying our success to the outcome. We communicate to get the promotion, to win the argument, to get that "I love you too" text back. When we don't get the result we want, the whole effort feels wasted, and that silence feels like a personal attack. This is the root of so much of our anxiety and despair. But what if I told you there's a radical way to reframe this? A way to make every single act of communication a success, regardless of the response. This is the Stoic approach, and it's about one simple, powerful shift. The true purpose of communication is not the external reply, but the internal practice of virtue. The moment you speak or write, your goal isn't what someone else does. It's about upholding your own character. So, how do we do this? We use what I call the virtue-first communication framework. Before you hit send, before you open your mouth, you do a quick internal check. You ask yourself if your message aligns with the 4 cardinal virtues. First, wisdom. Is this communication clear, true, and well-judged? Am I seeing the situation for what it is, not what my emotions tell me it is? Second, justice. Is this fair to everyone involved, including myself? Is it honest and respectful? Third, Courage. Does this require bravery? Am I speaking a difficult truth? Or am I holding back out of fear? And finally, temperance. Is this communication calm, balanced, and self-controlled? Or is it driven by impulse, anger, or neediness? If you can honestly say that your communication meets these standards, then you have already succeeded. The act itself is a victory. Whether the other person replies with praise or with deafening silence is completely irrelevant to your success. The moral win already happened inside your own mind. Let's imagine a scenario. You craft a very careful email to your boss. It's honest, clear, and professional. It's a perfect example of virtuous communication. In scenario A, your boss replies instantly, praises your work, and gives you exactly what you asked for. You feel great. In scenario B, you see the read receipt, but then nothing. Days go by. You've been completely ignored. For most people, their happiness would skyrocket in scenario A and plummet in scenario B. But for the Stoic, their sense of inner peace remains constant in both situations. Why? Because the quality of their character, the action they took, was identical. They acted with virtue. The external result, praise versus silence, is just the random noise of the world. It's what the Stoics called an indifferent. To let scenario B ruin your day is to give someone else the remote control to your emotional well-being. You're outsourcing your stability to their inbox. The philosopher Seneca said that true peace comes when we demand nothing of fortune but virtue. So when you communicate, demand nothing of the recipient but the chance to practice your own virtue. Now let's talk about that burning impulse we get when we feel ignored. The ego screams, "They can't do that to me." We want to send a follow-up, maybe a passive-aggressive one like, "Just checking if you got my last message," or maybe an angry one, to punish them for their silence. This is a lack of temperance. This is your wounded ego trying to force a response. The Stoic practice for this is brilliant. It's called the unsent reply. When you feel that surge of anger or neediness, don't suppress it, channel it. Open a blank document, and then let it all out. Write the most furious, unfiltered, gut-honest reply you can imagine. Swear, yell, accuse. Get all of that toxic energy onto the page. Let your ego have its tantrum. Then walk away. Wait an hour or even a day. Come back and reread your draft. Now apply the virtue audit. Is this draft wise? Is it just? Is it temperate? Is it courageous? The answer will almost always be a resounding no. You'll see it for what it is: neediness, chaos, and poor judgment. And then you do the most satisfying thing of all. You delete the file. Poof, it's gone. This exercise is incredibly powerful. You've allowed your ego to express itself, but you've contained the fallout. You've saved the world and your relationships from the pollution of your emotional reaction. This is an act of profound self-control. It ensures that when you do actually communicate, your words are dignified and virtuous, even when you're facing a wall of silence. When you start communicating for virtue instead of validation, something amazing happens. Your entire presence changes. You become less desperate because you no longer need a specific reply to feel successful. The act of sending the message was the success. You become clearer in your communication because you're focused on expressing the truth, not on trying to manipulate someone into a specific emotional response. And most powerfully, you become more authoritative. Genuine indifference to the outcome is the ultimate form of leverage. People can sense it. When someone tries to use silence as a weapon to control you or punish you, they find that it has no effect. You are unshakable. The person who is equally at peace with being acknowledged or ignored has already won. They've defined success on their own terms. So the next time your message is met with silence, don't fall into the trap of despair. Don't question your worth. Instead, review your action. Was my communication wise, just, courageous, and temperate? If the answer is yes, then hold your head high. You have acted with character, and that is the only outcome you can ever truly control. The words you sent out were a perfect reflection of your best self, and in the end, that's all that matters. Thank you for watching. If this idea resonated with you, hit that subscribe button for more insights on building a resilient and peaceful mind. See you next time. When you're ignored, it feels deeply personal, doesn't it? That primitive, self-centered part of our brain immediately casts us as the victim. We believe we've been slighted, deliberately and maliciously. But this way of thinking is a trap. It multiplies our suffering, locking us in a cycle of self-pity and resentment. It hands the person who ignored us continuous, unearned power over our emotional state. But what if there's a better way? The Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius had to deal with millions of people, from scheming courtiers to incompetent generals. His life was a masterclass in handling neglect and human imperfection. He developed a powerful philosophical antidote, viewing the faults of others with objectivity and compassion. This practice forces us to see the person who ignored us not as the perfect villain in our story, but as a flawed human being, struggling under the weight of their own issues. Their act of ignoring you isn't a judgment on your worth. It's a direct reflection of their own inner state. Marcus Aurelius started his day with a specific meditation. He would tell himself, "Today I shall meet with the busybody, the ungrateful, the arrogant, the deceitful, the envious, the unsocial." This wasn't about being cynical. It was a strategic preparation, a premeditation of evils. By accepting ahead of time that he would encounter flawed human behavior, the actual event lost its power to shock and offend him. When someone ignores your message, fails to credit your work, or just ghosts you, try applying this Stoic filter. They are acting this way out of ignorance. They are ignorant of the true value of respect. They're ignorant of the inner peace that comes from being just and fair. And they are profoundly ignorant of the long-term damage their chaotic behavior inflicts upon themselves. Their inability to acknowledge you is a failure in their virtue, not a flaw in yours. The key is to immediately shift the spotlight of your judgment. Instead of focusing on the personal injury you feel, focus on the other person's inner turmoil. When you see their action as a symptom of their internal disarray, you create an instant emotional buffer. You are no longer the victim of their action. You become a neutral, almost scientific witness to their philosophical mistake. This perspective naturally leads to a kind of Stoic compassion. Marcus understood that people who act unjustly or ignorantly are, in a very real way, punishing themselves. Their inner world is a storm of uncontrolled desires, irrational anger, and constant anxiety. Think about it. The person who needs to ignore others to feel powerful, or who is so self-absorbed they can't see the needs of others, is fundamentally suffering. Their silence might feel like a careless dismissal to you, but it's often rooted in something deeper. Maybe it's overwhelm. They could be so burdened by their own life, their own work, their own anxieties, that they are functionally incapable of engaging with one more thing. In this case, their neglect is a flawed attempt at self-preservation, or perhaps it's fear. They might be ignoring you because they're afraid of what you represent: competition, more work, or being held accountable. It could also be ego. Their silence might be a desperate, clumsy attempt to assert control or superiority, which, ironically, only reveals their deep-seated insecurity. When you start to see their neglect as a manifestation of their burden, your anger naturally melts away. It's replaced by a calm, philosophical pity. You realize the silent indifference they're showing you is just the overflow of the suffering they're already carrying inside. The highest Stoic victory over being ignored is not getting an apology, but achieving non-resentment. It's easy to be polite on the surface. It is much, much harder to genuinely let go of the bitterness that builds up from being overlooked. Marcus taught that the only power others have over you is the power you grant them through your reaction. He wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." We can adapt this. It is not the person who is ignored, but the person who craves resentment, who remains a slave to the situation. When you achieve true non-resentment, you have mastered the Stoic dichotomy of control. You have correctly judged their neglect as something outside your control, an external event. You have understood it as a product of their own error, their own ignorance, and most importantly, you have chosen not to pollute your own mind with the poison of bitterness. This is the ultimate, non-combative victory. You retain your dignity, you preserve your internal peace, and you grant the other person the compassion of philosophical distance, ensuring that their vice has absolutely zero impact on your virtue. Their actions can't touch your inner fortress unless you open the gate and let them in. So the next time you feel that sting of being ignored, remember this. Shift your perspective. See their burden, not your injury. And in doing so, you will not only protect your own peace, but you will have achieved a quiet, profound, and truly stoic triumph. Thank you for watching. If this resonated with you, please consider subscribing for more insights into practical philosophy. We've journeyed through the Stoic truths of being ignored, from understanding what's in our control, to the power of dignified withdrawal and a compassionate perspective. All these paths lead to one singular, majestic destination: psychological freedom. This isn't about eliminating suffering entirely, but about dismantling the internal machinery that creates suffering when we face external events. The ultimate reward for the Stoic who truly learns to accept being ignored is the final, total emancipation from the need for anyone else's approval. Think of the need for validation like a high-interest debt you can never pay off. When you desperately crave attention, praise, or even just a simple reply, you're essentially borrowing your happiness from others. Every time you send a text or make a post, you're hoping the other person will lend you a reply, a like, or some positive emotion to pay off your internal deficit. When they do reply, you get a temporary, fleeting jolt of happiness, a small payment on your emotional debt. But when they ignore you, the debt immediately compounds. You feel the sting of rejection, the anxiety of non-repayment, and this desperate pressure to go out and borrow even more. The person who isn't practicing Stoicism is perpetually in debt to the external world, their emotional portfolio completely controlled by the moods and whims of others. The Stoic goal is what the ancients called autarkia, or self-sufficiency. By practicing indifference to external outcomes, whether you get the reply, the praise, or the promotion, and prioritizing your internal virtue, your honest actions, your clear speech, you consistently reduce your reliance on borrowed happiness. You start to generate your own emotional wealth from within. When the need for external validation is finally gone, you have achieved emotional solvency. Their silence can no longer bankrupt you. Your inner treasury is full, and you are the sole key holder. Now here's the great paradox of power. The person who genuinely stops needing attention is often the one who commands it most. Neediness creates a repellent energy. People can feel it. They instinctively withdraw from those who demand their emotional resources, recognizing the desperation in the air. This desperation shows up as over-explaining yourself, sending frantic follow-up messages, or constantly seeking reassurance that everything is okay. It pushes people away. On the other hand, non-need creates an attractive authority. The person who is completely calm, centered, and unmoved by the social games others play possesses a quiet confidence that is naturally respected. Their actions are seen as deliberate and purposeful, not reactive or pleading. When someone tries to use silence as a power move against you, the ultimate defeat you hand them is your complete lack of reaction. Your inner composure makes their psychological weapon useless. You make it clear without ever saying a word that your life's path and your inner peace are non-negotiable and lie completely outside the scope of their opinion or their attention. As the Stoic philosopher Seneca might say, you become an unmovable force. This freedom from need doesn't lead to a life of cold isolation. In fact, it leads to deeper, more authentic connections. When you no longer need others to validate your existence, you stop seeing them as emotional suppliers. Instead, You see them as fellow human beings, travelers on the same road with whom you can share the pursuit of virtue, wisdom, and life experience. Your conversations completely transform. You're no longer implicitly asking, "Do you approve of me? Am I doing okay?" Instead, you are genuinely sharing, "Here is something I'm trying to understand about the world. What are your thoughts?" The friendships that survive this shift and thrive are the ones based on mutual respect and shared character, not on codependency. You're no longer hurt when a true friend occasionally ignores a message because you understand their silence is likely logistical, not personal. It doesn't threaten the fundamental, self-generated stability of your life. This brings us to the final, unwavering declaration of the Stoic path. You are enough. The Stoic is trained to see reality as it is, and the clearest reality is this ultimate, self-evident truth. Your worth is not a variable that goes up and down based on a stock market of social approval. It is a constant. It was granted to you the moment you were born with the capacity for reason and virtue. The external world, its praise, its neglect, its attention, its silence, can neither add to nor subtract from this fundamental worth. When others ignore you, they are simply reminding you that their perception is not your responsibility. They are giving you an invaluable opportunity to turn your focus inward, to tend to your own garden, and to prove your sufficiency to the only person who matters, yourself. This inner dominance, this ability to stand unbowed and indifferent in the face of silence, is the only lasting power a person can ever truly possess. It is the grand reward of the Stoic mind. The final and most powerful irony of this entire philosophy is that by mastering indifference to the noise of the world, you achieve the loudest form of self-assertion. The greatest victory is the one fought and won in the quiet solitude of your own mind. So when they ignore you, remember this: their silence is your ultimate training ground. It is the test that determines if you are a desperate performer begging for applause or a self-possessed sovereign ruling your own inner kingdom. Choose to be the sovereign. The only person who ever needs to see your worth is you. Thanks for watching. If this resonated with you, consider subscribing for more insights on building a resilient mind. Stay strong,